recording in progress like Zoom does.
Oh,
Yeah, but they have to.
What it is, transcribing, you can see it on the right side there, so
okay.
2 minutes.
it should be picking up on volume, so we should be okay.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Looking for approval of the agenda,
I'll make a motion.
Bonzer,
No, that was Josh. I'll second it.
oh, it was Binder, sorry.
Oh.
That's when I said Bonzer, sorry, it was Binder and Josh, I think. Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, approval of the December 10th meeting minutes.
Second.
Binder and Belville? All in favor? Aye. Public comments. These are comments pertaining to items listed on today's agenda. This is your time to speak. State your name, your address, and try to keep it to 2 minutes if you can.
I can go first.
Right, my name is, Greg Meadows, 5285 Channel View Drive, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And, I'm speaking today regarding, the changes that were proposed in December on the landing fees. And I'm really here not to be adversarial, but there are a lot of underlying issues historically that got us in a bad spot. So I don't expect things to be changed overnight to make everything great, but I would appreciate trying to be part of a solution. And I think it's gonna take a while to get it all undone and get us back on track. And, you know, the funding problem didn't start overnight, so let's not try and resolve it just by raising fees quickly that I think are way out of bounds anyway. And, I would like to see us get, good signage at the landings, once we change ordinance 19.2411 and make it a launch fee instead of a boat trailer parking, which is not right anyway. That we need signage to show that it's a launching fees. And with that said, you know, I'm sure the first year for compliance is not always gonna be 100%, and I'm sure we're gonna give people warnings. So I would really caution you guys not to get too crazy about like, how much did we bring in 2024, based on the fact that not everybody's aware of this. And we have other landings in the county that we don't charge boat trailer parking, but we could be charging launch fees. We got one in Butamore. We got one in Eureka, you know, even if it's a few bucks. I don't know if we gotta put a machine everywhere, but it's like, hey, we need to explore this. And then I'm trying to get answers on revenues that come in to the county. And then how are they dispersed amongst the county from boat registrations, boat sales? All these revenues that somehow, from the Department of Revenue, I tried to investigate it, and they aren't like bending over backwards to give me answers. They want like, hey, would you like, an open records request and it'll cost you money? It's like, I'm just one person here. I don't have a teacher to have them come up with a whole thing on what's going on here. I just asked for directions on where I could look, and I haven't been able to find it. Find the answer. I know it's there. Boaters that register their boat. The state takes a certain percentage of the gas tax every year. How does that money go back to the counties? Well, people that buy boats in Winnebago County have them registered in Winnebago County. Somehow Winnebago County gets these funds. How is that? What's the transparency on that? I'd like to see that.
We're at 3 minutes now for speaker.
Really, I'm just asking the committee to look at, our current ordinance and get it changed to a boat launch fee. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Paul Williams, 6773 Howlett Road, on a Black Wolf.
I'm opposed to the raising of the boat launch fees, as you're calling trailer fees. I fish all around the country. I've been to boat launches. And they have great fish killing facilities and bathroom facilities. There's no charge. I want to know how come the state of Wisconsin only charges $28 for the high cliff fee, and I can use that state sticker all over the county, the state. We have people that use our landings in the wintertime to launch UTVs, ATVs, snowmobiles. They have trailers. They're not getting charged. Why am I being singled out as a boater? We have people, they'll take their boat, dump it in, take their trailer back to their house, and they live on Lake Winnebago. They're not getting charged that fee. So where's I don't understand the sense of this. Let's see where we're going. Okay, that's about it. I'm gonna say right now, I'm just opposed to it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Doug Nelson, 214 North Sixth Avenue, Winnebago, also a supervisor, District 35. Very familiar with the setup that Winnebago has. I do know when Winnebago got the machines, the revenues went up substantially, plus enforcement went up. It was way easier to enforce after we had the machines. We put the stickers on the boat trailer. I think it's easier for the police officers to see it, identify it, so forth. I've questioned the raising the fee when we don't know what we're bringing in on the boxes yet. And also, as far as a boat launch fee in Winnie County, we have a parking fee. And our argument is the boat launch is pretty cheap, pretty simple to stick a boat launch in. It's putting in 2 acres of blacktop to park all the trailers is where the expense is. And one time we did get sued by a wannabe lawyer, for lack of a better term, that insisted there's some law out there that says you cannot deny people access to public waterways. A boat launch fee, in theory, you might be violating that somewhat obscure law. I don't know. I just think the parking fee is still the way to go. I would encourage you to try to make your fees much simpler. I do know Winnie County hates the fact that you offer a 3-year permit because now everybody that comes to Winnie County wants a 3-year pass. We don't offer it. I've got the paperwork here. It's $7 a day. It's $30 if you're a non-resident, $30 if you're a resident, $40 if you're non-resident. I'm going to get a ton of people angry at me, but I'm 72 years old. I have no problem paying the rate that it is. I sometimes think you can get so lost in the senior discounts and the 55, the 62. We don't offer any senior discounts. It's keep it as simple as you can. So it's a huge challenge ahead of you. I totally get that. Can see there's certainly a lot of pushback, and I think at the very least, eliminate a couple of those, make it easier on yourselves to issue the permits. And I still think the parking fee is the way to go, because quite honestly, the parking is where the expense is. That boat launch typically is good for 40 years. The parking is where the problems are. So, and ultimately, boy, if the county could ever work with Amro and Winnie County, and we could ever come up with one permit that would cover every boat launch in the county, and we divvy the money up at the end of the year, whatever, I'm sure Winnie County would be in favor of that. I know everybody that votes in the county would be in favor of that. That's probably a few years down the road, but that would be the ultimate goal, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Dan Rubin, 1854 Mount Vernon Street, Oshkosh. I'm opposed to the boat launch fee. You're trying to take more money and you don't even know what you get now. Every place that I've talked to, Winnebago, Oshkosh, the fees, the amount of money they took in went up substantially with the new machine. So why don't we try to, see where we get before we try to make changes, number one. Number two, the Wisconsin Press Doctrine is what guarantees access to the water. The state law. So you can charge a parking fee, but you can't stop people from launching a boat.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else?
I have something, Ted Opperman, 4608 County Road. I wasn't gonna speak at this session, I was just coming to see, you know, how you guys are doing stuff. I'd like you guys to look into something for the agenda, maybe next month or down the road. The Wash Trail, not everybody can walk on it, you know, because of a disability or something, or whatever. I'd like you guys to look into it where I could get a permit from the county showing with a doctor's excuse what my ailment is, to get a tag to put on my four-wheeler so I could ride down the county trails. I understand you guys probably have problems with the ATVs right now, just ripping up and down there, but you know, being disabled, I'd like to use that trail, and it wouldn't have to be opened all year. You could open it from like May to November, you know, and I would be respectful. My other thing is,
Is it on today's agenda?
I
Because we are
want
asking
to
you
put
to
it on
limit-
the agenda for
limit
next
your
month, please.
comments to things on today's agenda, so we got I'll put down the stuff about the wash, but is the next thing you want to say on today's agenda? That's what you're supposed to talk about.
Well, it's this, to talk to you, I think you need to be a little more polite to us as residents. You know, I was only sitting there, you know, and you come in here and you talk down to me and tell me that us public are supposed to sit here. You got 5 chairs here, there was some of these people that were sitting up here, there was nothing you had to talk down to me on. You know, you are, I don't vote for you. I don't know what district you're in,
You don't.
but, you know, you should be more appealing to the people that are in your district. And if somebody's voting against you, or if you're coming up for reelection, if I was in your district, I'd vote against you.
This is over 2 minutes.
I'm good.
Yeah. Anybody else that was sitting on today's agenda?
I'll say that.
Is
So
what?
Kathy Williams, 6773 Howlett Road, Oshkosh, 5402. I'm opposed to the boat launch fee strictly because you're targeting boaters and boaters only. There's people that launch their kayaks in the back of their vehicles. They back up to those launches, but they're not getting charged. I agree with the parking fee. So I'm just saying, you shouldn't be just targeting boaters. It should be targeted for everybody. There's people that live on the lake. They launch their boat, they park their boat during the summertime on their lifts, and they don't use it. They use it once, and they don't get charged because they're just gonna launch it, they're gonna leave, and they're not gonna park it there. So I think it's what is fair, and you guys really need to find out what's fair, and you need to give answers to the people in Winnebago County instead of not talking about it and always trying to sneak things in all the time. And like, I think Paul asked questions last time, and nobody's giving him phone calls or answered his questions from his last questions. So we're still waiting.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any more comments? This is the third time to ask. Any more comments? Is everybody online?
Triple check, but I do not believe so.
Comments are now closed. Okay, looking at discussion of the ordinance modification for the boat landing fees. I think Adam and I have talked 3 or 4 times since the last meeting. My plan was to table this until the fall. Also to lower the age to 55. The prices, the fees that turned up, on this were not Adam's fees. These were fees that were, put in by the executive's office. I don't know who in the executive's office did it. I don't know if it was John Damel, and it was Ethan, but they're the ones who changed the fees and upped them so high. Also, there's some talk about wanting to get rid of the 3rd year for free. So we're going to table this until the fall when we discuss our budget for 2025. which then be voted on by the whole board in October/November. So that's the plan. So my motion is that we table the ordinance modification until the fall.
Second.
Any discussion? Adam?
Can I just bring up a few things?
Sure.
I just wanted to bring up a few topics since we discussed this. Well, we started discussing this in November and then obviously December at the board. And then there's been a few conversations. Greg, I really appreciate the phone calls, and I just want to echo, anyone I know, David Kane, if some of you know him as well, I've received a few phone calls. Please feel free to reach out to my office. If I'm more than happy to return a phone call. I know you mentioned about just conversations. I guess I know I talked to you one-on-one at the county board meeting. So if there's more follow-up, feel free to, my phone number is 232-1961. That's my direct line. It's on the, we'll put it in the agenda too. It's on this meeting. So please really do feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to sit down with anyone from a standpoint of going over numbers, our actual budget, our expenses, our revenue. I've done that with David Kane before. I know I talked a little bit with Greg about that before. Anyone else that wants to, I'm 100%. There's nothing, from the Parks Department side, nothing to hide or anything. I can go through the numbers on how much we pay for portable toilets, how much we pay for mowing the lawn, for repairs, for ash tree removal, all those types of things. One thing I do want to bring up is since then, Greg and I had some good conversations and reached out to the Wisconsin DNR because I know it's been a topic that was brought up in public comments here just now. The launch versus parking fee. The city of Oshkosh does a launch fee. We do a parking fee. There's obviously Neenah, Menasha, and other ones as well. However, reaching out to Wisconsin DNR and looking at state code, so as a county, we can charge a fee to launch onto the lake. There's still access to the lake. We can charge a fee to launch onto it. In fact, it has to be a launch fee. We can't charge a parking fee, according to at least state code. And now I haven't worked with our corporation council, which is what we want to do over the next coming months here, to look at the basically potentially changing it to a launch fee versus a parking fee, because as of right now, at least upon a quick review of state code, a parking fee is not technically allowed, and after conversation with the DNR as well. So we'll be looking at potentially changing it, and that's up to the Parks Committee here, of course. It's just gonna be staff's recommendation, but to a launch fee. So that was the biggest thing I wanted to bring up, because that through conversations, through looking into things, obviously that's a little separate of the fee itself, but it definitely affects the potential amount of revenue coming in, because to the point of the public, we do have contractors that maybe just launch barge and then leave. We have all the homeowners on the lake that I'm sure pull up, launch their boat and leave. They're still utilizing our boat landing. They're still utilizing the facility. They might hop into the bathroom at Grundman now or at Black Wolf when they do it. They're still using the facility. And it does make sense for them to share in the cost of the facility. So those are just some comments from staff. Obviously, from a boat landing, from the fee standpoint, the goal through the budget process, and it was brought up through the budget process. I remember addressing the board too, that there was going to be potential fee increase proposal back in September. So we've definitely been working on this for quite a while, but was mainly to eliminate the 30-year free. But we want to obviously look at that throughout the next year and see what the committee would like to do, see how the new automated fee stations work. If we change to a launching fee, see how that works, because that might not happen until mid-season. And obviously then it's going to take some education to the public. So we might not even see the full effect of that in 2024 as well. But that's what I have to add.
Do you have something, Joe?
Yeah, I just wanted a clarifying question, I guess. The payment stations were paid for out of the ARPA fund, is that correct?
Correct.
So the change in fees isn't necessarily as a result of the pay stations?
No. And honestly, the operational costs are minimal in the sense of that wouldn't also be a reason, like the increased operational cost, because we were still paying for consumables even without the pay stations. Now we have to pay for receipt paper and some internet service out there, but
Correct.
so that wouldn't be a reason for the increase either.
Okay, perfect. And then the only other thing I wanted to say was that Dan, I can't remember which one of you is Dan Rubin. hi, had called me on the phone to talk about the boat launch fees, and I just very much appreciated that. We didn't have a 2-minute time limit for that phone call. It was just nice that we could kind of hash things out and get his feedback and opinion, but I appreciate that we're gonna discuss this later.
Anybody else? Jim?
Yeah, I'm happy Doug and you showed up because I don't think any of us know about that or even that. I understand tabling this, everything will stay the same until the end of this year. Am I correct on that?
At this point, we're selling passes as normal. Yep, because there's no
Okay.
change. So we're selling.
So, I don't have no one running against me, so I'll be here. I stress this, Adam, I hate to bring it up, you know what I'm gonna say. Now's the time to talk with the city, corporate council. One fee covers everything. That's all I've heard. Most people really do want that.
And,
I'm not putting it all on.
no, yep, and 100%
But
agree.
most of that's.
Well, in the 2.5 years I've been here, almost 3 now, that is, and Justin would agree too, the biggest question we receive or complaint or criticism on the boat landing fee is that, you know, you have to buy one for Oshkosh, one for Neenah, one for Menasha. I did reach out to the city of Oshkosh, you know, just, and I know I've talked about this before, so I won't go too in depth on it, but just to I mean, it is definitely something to the point of even Winnebago, it is definitely something that I am open to, and I'm open to having the discussions. The biggest question is at the end of the day, just to use simple math, if everyone charges $30 for a 1-year pass, Oshkosh, Nemash, and, you know, I know we're not all the same. And let's just say, you know, typically everyone's getting $30 and now one pass costs $100, whatever it may be, right? And so someone typically gets 4 different passes. So typically they're spending $120 on passes between Oshkosh County. So $120 is coming in. Now we charge one fee, only 100's coming in, but we still have the same amount of landings to maintain. So there's still the same amount. So I think it would have to really be looked at to make sure that if we do, obviously either we'd have to do payouts to all the municipalities so they could still maintain their landings, or one entity, which would make sense, the county, just because obviously we cover that entire area, would maintain things. But just keep in mind then, obviously with our staffing levels and our budget levels, we would need to, you know, analyze that and look at that. And it's just really, that's the point I'm trying to make, is that we absolutely, I think it would be great to combine them all. It's just a matter of, we would have to sit down with all municipalities, crunch the numbers, because there's still the same amount of landings to maintain. So obviously, I'm not proposing you have 5 communities and you raise the price, just add everyone's annual fees, and because I'm not, what's the point of that? Because not everyone buys from every municipality, so we'd have to really figure that out. Because obviously there's the other thing where maybe someone doesn't buy a county pass typically, but now, and they typically buy Winnebago, but now they spend $60 instead of $30 for this all county pass. So then there's an increased revenue there. So it definitely would have to be analyzed. And I have reached out to the city so far to see their interest. I think there's interest there, but they also understand that there's obviously a lot to discuss if we were to consider that. So I agree with your.
Just so that doesn't get dropped by the wayside, and I'm not saying you did that. There's arguments all the way around.
Mhm.
Somebody can say, well, now I had to buy 2 separate passes. Well, so I pay a little more and I get to go on 3 of them. There's argument all the way around.
Yeah. And Brown County is very similar. For instance, they like, our pass is 35, they charge 60. And they maintain De Pere and their own landings, and so they do have a system like that.
So I'm gonna vote yes to table it, as long as all this gets encompassed in the conversation later.
Guess my comment would be too, I would like to see the sticker on the trailer. Basically, you can park a car in the lot and not have to pay. So it's like, if I borrow one of their boats, I have to buy a pass. And I'm parking the boat, that's what I basically paid for, the boat, not parking my car. So if I borrow his boat, I have to buy a parking pass to use our boat landings, and I shouldn't have to, because I'm paying to park the trailer. So I should have a trailer pass and a parking pass on the trailer, so when I borrow his boat, I also get to use his pass, because he paid for the pass already. And Winnebago County, that's how they do it. You know, if I borrow Doug's boat, he's got a sticker on his trailer, I don't need a pass, he's got a pass. So why would I have to buy one?
And the biggest thing we'll have to look at is if we do switch to a launching fee, if the committee wants to go that route and someone does have a kayak in the back of their pickup truck, they don't have a trailer now, what do they pay or not pay? And that's just obviously one of the,
Right, and I'd also like to see, like, we had the public input meeting, we maybe need to have one on the boat launches when we get more information. So they have more than 2 minutes to talk. I mean, we sat there, I was with you, we talked for 2.5 hours at that public input meeting with the soccer clubs, the rugby clubs, and the pickleball. They had all the time they wanted to explain their needs to us. You know, they come here, they take time out of their day and it's cold, they got 2 minutes to talk to us.
and just so you're aware, we did have a boat landing user group meeting in September as well, and that was at night and it was virtual. So that way it's many, and we had about 5 people show up. So we did have, I'm not saying we shouldn't have one specifically for this. I'm just saying we did specifically for boat landing users, have one. But if
I think
we should have one
because
specific.
if we're gonna make these changes, I'd like their input on the changes so that we can come together and basically agree to that this is the best for the boat landings. I mean, I wanna see good boat landings with the boat users and, you know, we don't charge for the soccer field, we don't charge for the rugby. Every kid that plays soccer, we give it $1 on them. You know, when they register for soccer, they play 14 games at 14. I don't wanna see that. It's a community. A community supports everything in the community. I don't use any of it right now, but my daughter played soccer, you know, I got a boat years ago. So it's not how much money we can get out of the taxpayers. We already tax them on our tax bill. They pay us a county tax. So I don't see why we'd be charging. I wouldn't buy the We Wash Trail. There were basically trailers there with snowmobiles. We don't charge them to park that trailer in the parking lot on us. They don't pay nothing. You know, you go to the boat landings, they basically launch their 4-wheelers and they park their trailer in a boat landing right now. You don't pay for it. Well, we're penalizing these people $7 and they're using the same launch. So I think we really have to be careful that we don't treat everybody different. We all should be treated the same. You know, we're talking in the ARPA, putting over $1 million in them soccer fields. We don't get one dime out of a soccer field, and nor do I want to charge. I don't want to charge for a soccer field. But it's easy to do if you want to, and then you can put a pay station like on when they have soccer tournaments, and you can make them pay $2 to park in the parking lot. We just spent $750,000 putting in parking lots in County Park, and we're only halfway done. I don't want to charge people to park at County Park. It's a community. That's what you do. If you want to attract people, you have to give them something. I guess that's all I got.
Okay, and I should have said this sooner. Remember, we are having a discussion on the motion to table this. Are you gonna speak to tabling it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, I am actually. We are tabling it till the fall, if I'm correct.
Yes, it's August, September, whenever it is that we get together and go over the budget that we're planning to submit to the county executive, which then he sends back to us in time for the the countywide meeting.
And it just might be great to have like several updates as we go through before that moment happens, because we have a lot of great questions. And I think a lot of people brought great ideas up that we need to sort of hash out and see, okay, is this a good idea? Do we move forward with it? Or did we talk about it enough where we don't need to talk about it anymore? Because I don't want to get to, fall and then.
And not know what's been going on also.
Yeah, and here we are with all these questions like, all right, let's answer them after, 8 months here. That's not going to go well. And it would be great because then maybe more people would show up or they would have ideas every, I don't know, a month or 2 months, and maybe just have a slight discussion on this or an update on it. And I think that would be important. So you don't really have to have a large input meeting all the time. It's, hey, just show up here. We're going to talk about it and you're going to know what's going on. And I think that would be great.
Thanks. And
I was gonna say, I agree with Josh's timeline in that I think, maybe after the committees, if any changes to the committee after April, that we even start ready in May or June. So that way we do allow enough time for it, because there might be a meeting specifically on this topic on a Parks Committee, but maybe we want to have it in the evening. So that way people can come, so that way it is more of a workshop type meeting. And like you said, we need time to digest that feedback, make tweaks, probably have another meeting with the public there. So I think, May or even, May might be a little quick, but June, that'll give us 3 or 4 months before the budget would be approved, if there are any changes, because we gotta remember too, May or June also only gives us 2 or 3 months into voting season to see kind of where things are going. But we can start reporting back on that at the very least as we work through it.
any other discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
I,
Opposed? Okay, discussion comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, draft plan.
Right, so in your packet today. Down to that page. So we've been working on the comprehensive outdoor rec plan for several months. Actually, part of that was that boat user, public meeting. To get input on the comprehensive outdoor plan as it relates to the boat launches and the boat landings. And so the biggest thing I put in the packet, I'm try my best step to the side. I'll try my best to zoom this in.
Yeah.
It was in the packet too.
This is like the packet online.
Did it cut it off?
Words are all cut off.
And I had it landscaped.
No,
but
I-
if you're, but they must
That's
have.
fine.
Okay.
I don't think it's a you issue. I just want to let you know.
Oh, I apologize though. Let me just load up as much as I can then on here just in. Oh, perfect. Okay, well, that's not terrible. So actually it does start with the boat launches, and kind of what we're looking to do. So comprehensive outdoor plan, I didn't include the whole draft plan in it because number one, I'm waiting for the final draft plan next week. Also, the meat of the plan, a lot of it's more the description of our mission and our goal and that type of thing. But the meat of it is the recommendation section that basically says, what do we want to do in the next 5 years and beyond? So we need to apply for grants. So I figured this would be the best part to have it in the committee agenda so we can work through this if there's any questions or thoughts. So I'm just going to run through this plan or this document. And then at that point, if anyone has any questions, the goal would be to have this, have the completed plan in front of this committee in February. The actual pretty plan pictures and all that kind of good stuff. And then in March, because originally it was gonna be February to the county board, but we can't, if we have it in February, if the committee actually, we won't have time for it to get on the board agenda. If for some reason it's not approved or there needs to be a tweak to it, from this committee. So that's why it's better to be in March. So just a quick run, I'll do my best to run through it as efficiently as possible without going too quickly. But so we start with, we kind of categorized each section. So we started with boat launches. So some of the things we have in the next 5 years, and then we do have a column here on the far right for and beyond 5 years, meaning we might not, have an immediate need for it. But let's say in the next year or two, all of a sudden it, sometimes things can change with this within the capital improvement plan. We want it to be in our plan so we can apply for grants. So in 2020, and so each column's a year, and then we color coded the CIP, where it would be funded versus ARPA versus operating, because some of these things aren't necessarily capital improvement projects. So at Asylum Point Park and boat landing, you'll see some things that, maybe aren't completely boat landing because of Asylum being a little unique. And we do have the priority column. So we have high priority for adding a self-service kayak rental station. The revenues of that rental station would go back to the boat landing fund. Very specifically, that is going to be a request within the ARPA or within the Spirit Fund. So that is why it's 2024, 2025 and color coded for Spirit Fund. And then we have replaced the sign by the boat landing. So the white sign that has the informational sign, it's in pretty rough shape. That one's getting done through operational costs. We're hoping to get that done this year. Looking at the lighthouses has been our comprehensive outdoor plan for a while. Looking at the potential to fix the light in there, whether or not it's an official lighted lighthouse, or if we do something more like an LED light, just to kind of more of a replica. Point is that's a low priority, but it's still, in the plan eventually. So, and we don't have a rough cost at this point. Continue to work with the DNR on the 5-year lease. Like for instance, it's the last year of the lease at the site. It's a 5-year lease, so it's just a regular lease. So we have to work through that. So some of that kind of stuff is going to be in here as well. Black Wolf boat landing. And I think what I'll do is I'll go through the landings, and if we have any questions on like boat launches, then we can, let's do those questions, and then maybe we'll provide like category, so that way we don't get too far and forget some of the stuff. But explore opportunities to expand parking at Black Wolf. We don't know what the price would be on that or at this point on expanding, because number one, we don't know if any neighbors or property owners in the area would be even willing to sell land. But that should be something that we need to look at. Black Wolf tends to be our most popular landing next to Grumman and then Butamore and Asylum. So looking into that, we don't have the cost, but basically the next 4 years, we're planning on seeing what the feasibility is. Add more lighting for safety. We do have that in 2028 with the approximate cost of 20,000. And then maintaining the bathroom, we're actually looking at, there are some cracks that are happening in the bathroom roof. It is a concrete roof, so it's a little unique. And that we're gonna need more of a concrete company than a traditional roofing company to look at that, which we actually are working on that.
Is it,
It's pitched.
okay.
Yeah, there's just a crack in one of the seams in the middle, so we have to take a look at that and see how to best patch a concrete roof. Boom Bay boat landing, we're looking to install a few hazard buoys. Once again, this is more through operational, just because there are some low areas there. Eventually, we do need to dredge Boom Bay. But we don't have that in the next 5 years. But repair and repave the parking lot, which is actually happening, pending the capital improvement plan that's on the county board agenda for tonight. And we'll talk about the capital improvement plan, even though I know I went through an overview. We'll go through that pretty quick after this, but basically we're looking to pave Boom Bay this year. Eureka boat landing, and actually that price is even a little higher for Boom Bay since we did this draft. I think we're 137 for Boom Bay. I don't think that parking lot's ever been paved, so.
Is it just gravel right now?
Gravel, we put a binder on it at one point, so it's pretty rough, so we do want to pave that parking lot. We all started looking at some other improvements out of Boom Bay. We're having some washout right behind the seawall, so we're looking at maybe pouring that concrete and then putting a little picnic area there as well. So we're looking into that through operations. Eureka boat landing, actually, I have a meeting at 12:30 for the repair, to meet with our engineer repairing the concrete ramp that's there. We have rebar showing we did cut the rebar for safety. And so that way no one's boat pops a tire, but obviously we need to get that done. So that is a project for this year to replace the river landing. So that'll get a new landing. Also, this would be a spot being on the Fox River for a kayak rental station. We're looking, that would be through Spirit funds. Once again, it's a self-service. Basically, you can rent the kayak on your phone. It's in a container. You get a code to unlock it and you get the kayak go out. And once again, it's just another revenue source potentially for the boat landing. And an avenue for someone that maybe doesn't own a boat, but wants to get out on a kayak out on the waterways. And then replacing the playground and dredging, especially not the river as much as dredging the lagoon area right off the Fox River. So that is in, and I apologize, the columns don't stay, but 2028. Trim next, continued maintenance. We did clear the brush along the whole shoreline of the Fox River. We want to continue that year after year. So that's just a maintenance thing. And then update the historical site marker and add some gravel paths. We have that as a future project further than 5 years out. We do hope to get one of those self-service kayak rental stations right where the kayak launch is to bring in some revenue for installing that kayak launch. And then just once again, updating, we need to do clearing the vegetation this spring out of Grunman. Now that the project is done, we just gotta wait for the restoration of the grass. We're hoping to get out there in winter. So now that there's ice, we're hoping to still get out there. Obviously too cold to be doing tree removal on the lake right now, but hopefully with the weather warming up and the ice still being frozen, we can get to that here in the next couple of months. And then Lake Butamore, this is our next big project, the Butamore boat landing. So in 2025, we will be requesting 129,000 for engineering. And then in 2026, we'll be requesting the construction. That would be dredging the boat landing, adding additional parking in that grass area. There's a grass area designated for additional parking, adding a bathroom to the Butamore site, updating all the site lighting, and the service road around. There's a lot of culvert issues and redoing the road while we're redoing the parking lot. So that is their next large project that is very similar to Grumman. So we're looking at doing that in 2025 and in 2026. And then the Poyan boat landing is very similar to the Eureka landing in that we are finding a void under the ramp. A void, meaning it's being washed out underneath the concrete. We did, so it's gonna be kind of like Eureka. We definitely need to get that one taken care of. That one is a wider landing and it's right in the center of the landing. So it's probably gonna make the most sense to just replace the whole ramp, but we're not 100% sure on that. But that's why we designated 200,000 in there, compared to Eureka's 125,000.
What check that?
We could, I mean, we're gonna look at a temporary repair and see how it holds, so. And then, but being on the lake, they do wear out pretty easily, so it might require, we'll have to see. It depends how old the ramp is too. It is pretty significant.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty big void underneath, so, it might make sense just to cut out the middle and reduce it to maybe $100,000 type project, but it just kind of depends if we're already out there cutting it up, does it make sense to just replace the whole thing? So that's, we have to look at that over there. We found the void, it was, pretty much uncovered this year, so that's what. And then countywide bowl launch, basically to continue getting, we have life preservers at Grumman. We partner with the DNR on that. They replace so it's no cost to us. We just put it out there. We inventory them. So trying to get more of those, life jacket stations out at the launches. Anyone have any questions or thoughts or opinions on boat landings? Obviously, we have a lot of projects in the next 5 years that we're looking at.
I know for the mud jacket, like the highway department has one that actually pumps concrete.
Mhm.
And if you pump that full of concrete underneath that void, now you have basically a solid. I don't know how it could be any more solid than cutting it out.
Yep.
And I mean, they go up on 10 and they take them big panels and they're 12-inch thick concrete, they pump them up.
Yep.
How
Because
does concrete dry if it's in the water?
it's not in the water.
Well, there is special concrete that actually a lot of times concrete cures better in the water.
Okay,
But it might be an option. It'd be an
Yeah,
option.
and we found it at Grumman too.
That'd be about $30,000-$40,000. You know, they bring a cement truck, 10 yards of concrete, isn't that expensive?
Right.
And pump that in there, and you're gonna get quite a few years out of that versus spending $200,000 to cut that out.
And at Grumman, we looked at that because we found a void and, it was basically 20,000 versus 30,000, so it was only $10,000 difference to pour brand new, so that's the type of analysis we have to look at.
We were redoing that whole launch, I mean, that was time to do it.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. And there was a little bit more research. So yeah, it's definitely something we have to investigate. We wanted to put a placeholder in the comprehensive the rec plan just in case a full redo is needed, but yeah. Any other questions, thoughts?
any other
Otherwise-
comments for Adam? Questions? Okay, discussion of the capital improvement plan, Parks Department.
I still have a few more there's still some more here with the,
Oh, I thought you said you were done.
and well, I was just thinking, unless you want me to do questions all at the end. I was just going by category.
If anybody has questions as he's speaking,
Should we just-
like I said, like when he said there was a void, I said, what? I didn't understand the word.
Yep.
So you could
That's
jump in
fine.
for something, but yeah.
Okay. Ken Roble Conservation Park, this has actually been updated even since, this was put in the agenda packet. We won't have a pump track there in the plan. I talked to John Ravy before he announced his retirement. At this point, I don't think we necessarily have a plan to put one out there. So we have some repair things we need to look at that we added to it instead. So that has changed since this was in the package, just so you're aware. Coughlin Nature Preserve, more maintenance than anything, replacing the dedication sign. This is the nature preserve right behind the Coughlin building. Removing the planter boxes, they haven't been upkept. They don't look, if we don't have the resources to do it, we're gonna look to remove those and maybe just do a different entry, basically replace the entry sign. Get more awareness out to that area. We might actually have a partnership with some professors at the university as volunteers to start a program to bring school groups out to the Coughlin Nature Preserve and out to the community park for outdoor nature activities. So stay tuned for that, but yeah, so mostly just all maintenance stuff. I won't go through each individual item there, I suppose, in that case. Shangri-La, that's the nature preserve that we did the wetland delineation on that wasn't the capital improvement plan, but we did replace that with some of the other items like the expo items here, because those had direct revenue ties. So that is still, we do have that estimate of 287,000 at parking out there. But at this time, it is not in the plan for next year or in the next 5 years. That obviously we have the ability with the wetland delineation and we know what the cost is out there. So that could move if there's a desire to move that in the future, but that's where we are at this point. The Waukau Dam, Waukau Creek, the big thing there is as I mentioned last meeting, we did receive the grant from the DNR. The county has not approved their funding yet. That is, you can see this is grant funding. So I didn't have necessarily a color for it. So I left it as capital improvement fund. And then this is the Spirit Fund dollars. So the part of the Spirit Fund request will be requesting that matching cost for the Waukau Dam project of $751,000. We do have our engineers still working on the project because engineering was approved. So, but we are hoping to go to bid this spring. So we really, once we can get this presented to the Spirit Fund Committee, we really need to keep it moving because otherwise we'll be looking at it being pushed into next year and that could affect the cost. Reroute trail system, which obviously we're doing some of that through maintenance, but most of that's gonna be done through the bigger project. And install an educational sign that might be able to be done through the bigger project, depending on how that project comes in bid wise. Install limited picnic facilities. Some of that might be done through the project as well. Once again, we do at least have a plan for the shelter in there, our small shelter and some picnic tables. Lasley Point, which is over in the town of Oshkosh, or sorry, is in the town of Winnebago. It's the archaeological site. We would like to eventually develop a site plan for that, coordinating with Historical Society, both local and state. So we do have a plan to do that. It's a little bit more specialized, obviously, being a historical site. It's not just a traditional engineer. And then obviously maintenance out there, we do our best to maintain what we can. We can't, we can only cut and maintain during certain times of the year when there's frost in the ground. And then Sunnyview Expo, you're very familiar with a lot of these already because they're on the capital improvement plan. So I'll actually wait until we talk about that after this. And then we do have that out in 2025, looking at basically the covered arena. We had discussed at one point painting, sandblasting when I first arrived here, so we still need to bring that topic back up. And then Winnebago County Community Park, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. That's this plan that we've looked at in the past. And we've had these this is where we had a lot of our public meetings on. We included this in the comprehensive out direct plan. We did more in-depth look into the community park than typically the comprehensive plan would have otherwise done, because it is obviously our biggest park and our most utilized park, or most utilized facility, maybe outside of the Sunnyview Expo. So with that, phase 1, we are looking to ask for the reconstruction of Playground 3, and constructing a new shelter concession stand, building a 3rd and 4th rugby field, and removing the south softball field, properly tilling all the soccer field, basically adding an additional soccer field and redoing 4 other soccer fields, and then adding pickleball courts all through phase 1. That's so these colored ones and this colored one. And then through the capital improvement plan, which is on the agenda for the county board tonight, would be those shelter 1, 2, and 4 updates and remodel, and then repairing and paving the parking lots, like was brought up earlier, for the $257,000. So
Remind me again, the first box, that's 24, or is that 25?
these are so the first box is this year, 2024.
Okay,
And then these boxes are 24, 25.
okay.
Because if the Spirit Fund, because these are Spirit funds, if that's approved, but as you can tell, it's a lot of work. Some of it requires engineering. So we would start a lot of it this year. Well, they're not good. Construction probably wouldn't start on a lot of it till 2025.
Are we not doing the lights for the soccer field?
At this point, we don't have a proposal in the Spirit Fund to do the lights. Our goal is to repair the playing surfaces or add additional capacity to the playing surfaces, basically doing the meat of the work. And then if the clubs want to fundraise, whether it's rugby or soccer, pickleball, whatever it may be, if they want to fundraise for lighting, for bleachers, for extra amenities, then that is at least my proposals, that they in turn then fundraise and use this basically as matching type funds to fundraise the community to enhance, if they want to do more enhancements. My opinion is that we focus on what's that?
At the input meeting, I did bring that up, if they'd like us to do the lighting and maybe cut back on doing leveling the soccer field. They said that they would rather fundraise for the lighting and they would rather have a smooth soccer field to play on. It's safer for the kids. And they said there's no need for us really to, like, I wanted to build the premier field that we basically started about 10 years ago. They said there are other fields that basically have that, and they didn't really want to see us spend the money on that. They'd rather see us upgrade the condition of the fields because they're getting rough and kids are basically turning their ankles and, so it's, what is it, $80,000 a field, a level of field?
Yeah, it's 80,000 a field per field.
We got 20 field, So that's
Do
where
we have 20?
About 20 soccer fields.
that's where they wanted, because I wanted to put lights out there so they could play at night, so, and then wanted us to spend the money if we got it to level field.
Thanks.
Rachel?
Thank you. How did the pickleball courts get on here? We didn't vote on that like county board or Parks and Rec.
Right, and so obviously the comprehensive outdoor rec plan as a whole needs to be voted on by the Parks Committee and the board.
Okay,
So if at any point, obviously someone wants to change something within the plan, obviously that's able to be done. You know, I was hoping to get the Spirit Fund request out in December or November before the comprehensive outdoor rec plan.
sure.
Because then obviously if that would have been, let's say that's not approved in the
Sure.
Spirit Fund, then obviously we might remove it in the comprehensive outdoor rec plan.
Okay,
So
I
it
guess
kinda-
the only other reason I'm asking is because the pickleball group never even submitted an application.
And this is basically so the request or that will be going in front of the Spirit Fund is coming from the county executive and staff. Sort of
Sure,
like that.
okay.
And I apologize if I'm not using the right terms.
No, I totally get
Okay.
it. I'm just saying that like the group
Yep.
was, like, I saw them show up with their like rec or pickleball paddles and it was cute. They were in their outfits. But like if they really wanted it, submitting a one-page piece of paper online should have been done.
No.
Like,
I wouldn't say, Rach, Adam and I both spoke to this one guy who said he was in charge or the head of this pickleball. Group. We both encouraged him to come up with some kind of funding to match, not just ask
Right.
for them. And he didn't. He came up and asked for the whole thing to be covered by the Spirit Fund. And I thought, Adam and I both spoke to each other. He knew what we were expecting. We were not expecting, you know.
right,
he
and
would show-
right, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is because we have the soccer clubs and the rugby clubs that are actively involved,
Yeah.
and willing to fundraise, and they show up.
Yes.
So that's my concern. I just wanted to voice
It's, yeah,
that.
it's ours too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Thank
It's
you.
fine. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Okay,
Yeah.
cause like if they're willing to put in a little, like the frisbee golf people, if they're willing to put in a little bit of sweat equity or at least fill out a form online. Great, I support that, but if you can't even do that.
Yeah.
Are you gonna show up once it's built?
what I want to emphasize, yeah, I mean, this will be a proposal and obviously it has to go through Spirit Fund. It has to go through county boards.
Sure.
There can be obviously changes made.
Okay,
As it goes through that process. We did create criteria, at least what the county executive wanted to see in terms of does it reduce maintenance? Does it I apologize, my thing was, but does it reduce maintenance? Does it reduce maintenance? Does it provide access to the water? I don't have it all in front of me, but basically
Sure.
there's 6 criteria and like Waukah Dam is an example, is in the Spirit Fund.
Yeah.
And that fits all of them. You know,
Perfect, okay.
it's fixing maintenance, it's increasing capacity, it's obviously access to the water,
Sure.
different types of things, and you'll see it because I'm hoping I can bring the Spirit Fund request to the committee hopefully in February or March
Okay.
to present what we're looking to do. Yeah, so you'll see, and then, you know, pickleball matches, I think 2 or 3 only.
sure.
So it's gonna be up to the Spirit Fund and the board of, do you want to accept it as it is? Do you want to pull things out?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry to,
No, and I apologize, these are all happening at the same time, and so
Okay.
that's. I want to stress the comprehensive outdoor rec plan, even if I say something's happening in 4 years from now, obviously things can change, or the board can not approve a project, like Butamore. The board
Right.
could not approve that project.
Okay.
This is just a plan and going forward. Now, if anyone wants to propose changes to it, that's obviously something.
sure. And I guess at the end of the day, my biggest concern is their involvement and participation in getting it done.
Yep.
And then the benefit to the community. How many people are actually going to use
Sure.
it?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I gotta apologize. I gotta leave. I had another commitment at 11:30. And it's got scheduled, so. Sorry, I gotta go.
It's okay. Come on.
Nice to, we'll see you tonight.
And then phase 2 and 3, basically is everything else or within the master plan. You know, installing lighting at the pickleball courts is a long range. Once again, anything that's in the comprehensive outdoor rec plan it could be funded by the county, but it could be funded by the groups. It's just, what do we want to see with the facility? So if there's a pickleball court, I could eventually see lighting out there, whether or not the county pays for it or not, that's a whole nother conversation. We just want to make sure we have it in here. So if we ever want to apply for a grant, we have opportunities. Basically everything that's in the master plan, if you want me to go through any of this, but So all the different, adding the playground at the soccer shelter that was talked about, enhancing playground 2, adding new parking facilities, that type of thing. Jerry Finch Winnebago Dog Park, it's in the capital improvement plan request for tonight, paving the entrance and the parking lot to that dog park. And then the Wash Trail, we do have some items on there. A lot of it is more big picture items that we want to have in here if there were ever grant opportunities, connecting the Wash Trail to the city and town of Winneconne, or to Omro, or to Neenah. You know, there isn't a concrete cost and plan to that right now, but just like Menasha's working, Menasha and all the other communities along the way are connecting to High Cliff State Park, or wanting to, and they have the community foundation of support up there. And we want to make sure that we have it in our plan too, so that way, if there were ever opportunities like that to connect to these and make big changes to the trail system, that they're in a plan. So you'll see a lot of that. The biggest one that's more tangible is creating a trailhead at Breezewood. We do have some vacant land there. That's our land that we want to maybe put a restroom, put a parking lot at Breezewood. Widening bridges for the snowmobile trails, that has a lot of grant potential, so we definitely want that in the plan at some point, whether or not it's, 2029 and beyond. That does have grant potential because there is a snowmobile grant fund that we can apply for snowmobile grants with the DNR. Mascoutin Trail, basically continue to investigate additional off-street parking along the trail. Honestly, it's low. I don't really have a designated year for that. Obviously continue to repair the trail. And then county-wide trail recommendations, like I mentioned, paving from UWO to Lake Butamore Drive, that is in the Spirit Fund request to pave that section of the trail and turn it over to the city for the city to maintain it for the foreseeable future. Prioritizing safe, access to trails, those types of things. And then County Highway A, at one point, was supposed to be paved all the way to Neenah from Oshkosh. Obviously, there were situations with oh, sorry, I'm dropping, but basically it's paved 2 miles to the north and then it stopped, and that was mostly due to changes at the state level to adding trails to right away. So that is the comprehensive outdoor rec plan. If anyone has any other questions or thoughts on that, that's the meat of the plan, the recommendations.
My only question, you and I took a tour of Kenny Roble, was that back in August maybe?
Yeah, probably about August.
And we were looking at the trees that had been eaten up, the bottoms of them. Okay, were the trees replaced? Did we find things that were like the deer wouldn't be interested in, or find ways of barricading with fencing or whatever to protect the trees?
We haven't replaced the trees yet. So, I mean, at this point, it's purely aesthetic, and it wouldn't be something that would necessarily be big enough to be in a comprehensive outdoor rec plan. But that's a matter of working with solid waste to see if they can fund some trees. And identifying, because we also removed some dead trees this fall. So we have removed some dead trees, but we haven't replanted anything. Now with the director leaving, we may wait until new directors until we would obviously talk to them and let them get them caught up to speed on what we're all working on.
Any questions for Adam? Okay, moving on to the park director's update.
Capital improvement plan.
Oh, sorry.
And I think what I'll do with this one, since I already did this presentation at the last meeting, I guess I'll kind of just ask if anyone has any questions for tonight. For the most part, as you recall, we're looking to do the West Campus improvements, which is the parking lot out here, or the engineering for it. For the West Campus improvements, mostly parking lot and stormwater. So a little bit with the front entrance here. As you can see, the front entrance isn't great, redoing some of the walkways into it, redoing the drop-off area, some of that. That I actually, just to kind of get you caught up to speed, if that is approved tonight, I actually already have an RFP to go out to solicit for engineers tomorrow, already sent it to purchasing. So if that does get approved, we're ready to roll with some of these projects. Shelters 1, 2, and 4, the repairs to the shelters. Just working a little bit more with some engineers on that to see if we do it in-house or if we work with some light engineering on that. But that's to do a lot of repairs around the shelters. And then the park paving, that would be mostly a highway project. The room dividers, that's these room dividers that you see actually right here. That one I actually have a request for bid that is ready to purchasing as well. That could go out tomorrow. That's a 32 week, at least the one vendor we've been working with, to at least get the budget estimate. It's about a 30-week timeline from the time it's ordered to even get the product. So that wouldn't be probably till late summer, fall. So we want to get that one out right away if that gets approved tonight, and then
How many
sealing.
you're looking, how many room dividers you're looking for?
It's about 50, well, no, actually it's about 60 or 70, 52 in this section, and then, oh, down there's 13. So what is that, 60, 65?
Okay.
So
So these don't work or they're not,
they're having issues maintenance wise.
Okay.
They're having issues with the cranks that seal them down.
sure,
You'll notice, not that one, but there's some doors without handles. We can't get parts for them anymore. So they're original from 1988, so it's time to replace them. And so
Okay.
that way our maintenance staff don't have so many issues with them. And then sealing the floor, we're looking to actually meet with the contractor today and tomorrow to really button that up to which direction we want to go. If that's approved, we should have that out in the next 2 weeks. So we're ready to move forward with these projects if they are approved, just to give you guys confidence that, they won't just sit and wait. We're ready to move forward with them, but if anyone has any questions on them, so that way if there's questions at the board tonight, I know it's in the consent agenda, but if there are any questions, I take them, so.
I'm excited it's getting done. I don't have any questions.
she said 30 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, most of these are probably custom, most buildings,
Yeah, okay.
different ceiling heights, different widths. So probably these are all custom made, so for the most part.
More questions? Okay, now on to the park director's update.
Okay, real quick, Grumman Boat Landing construction, this will probably be my last update on it. We knew we need to go through final punch list, but lighting's working, bathrooms should be working, but we're gonna test it in spring, obviously, with the contractor, so we haven't closed out the project per se yet. And then in February, the camera request you approved in November that didn't make it on December, is gonna be on the agenda with PNF. So if that is approved, then we would, be able to install the cameras out there. We have all the conduit, cameras and, yeah, the cameras. The camera is the last piece of that project. We did order picnic tables, permanent ones to go underneath the new shelter, so that way we have new picnic tables out there.
What are they made of?
They're the corrugated metal, style that you see at the community park that'll last a while, and they bolt to the ground, so that way someone can't throw it in the lake. Because believe it or not, that happens. Right now, we just have some very, very old wood ones out there, so that'll be nice with the new shelter. Sunnyview Expo sign lease update. I know you mentioned you would, like an update on that. So I did reach out. So in September, the board approved that lease with the sign company. Since then, they went through a little bit of a change in ownership. I mean, same contact, but different company that overall owns it now. They're just looking over the document and the lease one more time before they put it to make sure. And I said, if there's any changes, it'll have to go back to Parks and have to go back to the board if there's any major changes to that lease. But he didn't think there would be. They do have to go to the town of Oshkosh for a variance request because it is larger than their standard sign requirements. But however, the more I drive, I get off the highway right there every single time I come in, and you can barely see that sign until you're, a couple hundred feet from it. So honestly, going bigger on that big of a road, I really truly don't think, and everything's zoned commercial around there, should not affect the neighbors. You can barely see that sign, the current sign. So, yeah, so hopefully we're just kind of in a waiting game. He has been communicating with me. So it's not, there's still a chance that it could fall through, but we're kind of waiting on him to keep moving it forward. Civic Rec, just wanted to give you guys an update that we are changing our rec software. We are going from Rec Desk, which we currently utilize, to Civic Rec. That's what we use to take all of our boat landing permit fees, our shelter reservations when you go online to rent a shelter. We are changing out that whole system. So it's a big project that Justin has for this year. I'm helping, but Justin's carrying the load on that. The goal with this new system, because it is definitely a step up, is that we'll eventually be able to have like groups like the soccer clubs do their own, do all their scheduling through that system. We're also, one of the major goals of it, the only reason that one of the biggest reasons we were to continue and go forward with it, obviously it's gonna have better user interface for the residents, but is to be able to now put reservations into the system for this building and this complex. So that'll take some time because obviously there's a lot of buildings and there's a lot of intricacies when you rent something at the expo. you know, it's each room costs a certain amount. There's an agreement that gets done with it. But we want to be able to take put all that through this system. So that way that calendar is the master calendar also for this building as well. And so there's definitely the capability to do it. But Justin and I are gonna have to learn it, and then we're gonna work with Rick on training him. And then we also want Kyle to have access to it so he can see all of our buildings that are being utilized for reservations, whether it's for plowing, whether it's for getting them ready. And that type of thing. So just so you're aware, I just want to make you aware, you're gonna see a change probably around March to our where you can book or purchase your boat passes, or where you can book your or reserve your facility for the summer. So I've gone through this 3 or 4 times now in other communities, and it's a big process. So it'll take a lot of effort, and we'll be slowly, by the end of the year, we hope to have the expo in there essentially and be able to have everything integrated. So shelter reservations and boat launch passes are available now. As I mentioned, boat launch passes are at the current price. There's no changes. There's no changes to policy at this point. And then shelter reservations are available online as well. Just so you're aware, the pavilion, like I mentioned, we were to try to do the pavilion over the winter here. We had some pretty good bookings in November, December. We only had one in January. We did test the utilities in the sense of ran it for a full month in early March last year, and it was pretty cold at that time. But now that we've seen the build with a frigid cold, we have decided that we only have one rental in January, none in February, and one in March. So we have decided that we are going to close the pavilion for the rest of the year, turn off the water, turn off, and then lower the electricity to the normal, turn off the heat in there, because it's just not going to be worth it. We said from the beginning, we want to make sure we try our best to utilize our facilities the best we can and give it a shot. And we gave it a shot, and it's just not going to be financially, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to, it's about 1,000 utilities to have one rental. Even if we'd have to have 7 rentals to break even. So we've decided that we'll discontinue that, but we definitely gave it a shot. So it's just the heat runs through concrete ducts in the floor. The windows just aren't insulated very well. If we had a better facility, like we're looking at in the future with the pavilion in 2026, that's in the capital improvement plan. If we have a better facility, we can charge more the $1,000, $2,000. I mean, for instance, the Plowman Park facility that was built in Allegheny County, they're charging $2,000 for the weekend for weddings and for those types of groups, and they're booked. So, you know, if we're going to, and that's gonna be a conversation, obviously, as we keep going through with the capital improvement plan, it is in the capital improvement plan. If you saw that in there, I apologize. I didn't talk about future years with our capital improvement plan, but if that does stay in there for 2026, you know, that is the structure I think we'd be looking to go to, is more of a nicer wedding type pavilion that could be utilized in the summer months and year round. So, but obviously it would be more up to date and have better insulation and more modern in terms of energy efficiency. So just an update there. So those are my updates.
Any questions for Alan? I just have one about the picnic table. Those metal benches especially, how hot do they get in the heat of the day? Because women and children tend to get stuck on hot seats. Men wear longer pants, I guess. But I feel like I've lost several layers of skin when I got off of something hot.
No, they're under the pavilion first of all, so they'll be shaded for the most part. And they're pretty standard throughout. If there were significant issues, these have been utilized for years and years. If there were issues, by now the manufacturers would have made changes to them.
Okay.
And I've never seen issues. I know we have them out in our parks. We don't have any.
Okay, good.
Yep. Right.
Mine's in regards to the plant lease update. I know we discussed and I know Rick was involved in that. We're just making sure we had stone or brick on the bottoms. Did that get put in there, or has that been discussed, or what's?
We haven't really discussed the final design of it because we're just waiting to see if it's even realistically, and they have to present a final design to the town of Oshkosh because that's part of the variance. Really, the town of Oshkosh is approving the look of it in all reality because it's the town and that's what the variance is for.
So that wouldn't be on our end though.
We can obviously ask for things, absolutely, but the town of Oshkosh at the end of the day can say the sign needs to look like this, or it needs to be this size, or we'll approve because of going through that variance process.
Okay, fair.
Okay. Committee comments? Jim,
No.
Josh, Rachel? The only one I would say is that, you and I have tweaked this agenda form several times. I would say, that we need to put something in here on the agenda or in the information for community. If there's something on, that's not on the agenda, you would like to see us discuss for the next meeting, contact the Parks Department. Because we had two inappropriate comments today because they had nothing to do with what's on the agenda. And there has to be a way for those requests to be dealt with other than during public comment time. So I don't know.
I think a lot of committees, I mean, I can look to see what other committees have for that. I think a lot of committees just do simply public comment. And they allow comments on the agenda or not on the agenda, anything pertaining to parks.
We allow comments.
Right.
Anything going to do with the committee.
At the county board,
Yeah.
whereas I think a
But
lot
I
of
think
committees
most
do
of the
more.
committees are saying something that's on today's agenda.
I mean, I
Yeah.
can check with other committees. I don't know if anyone's on another committee.
Yeah, now that Supervisor Powers brought it up, I think last month I had asked to put the 2-minute time limit on there, just so the public knew. But one of the other parks committees for the city of Menasha, we had at the very bottom, right before adjournment, or no, would have been before like future agenda items. We put like public comment, any other item not listed on the agenda. I don't know if that's
Something
helpful.
for the future.
Correct, yeah. So if people wanted to stay and like listen to the entire presentation and then bring up something else, they would have an additional 2 minutes to
I
talk.
think it's a bad idea.
I really liked it. It encouraged people to stay, like they're really passionate about something, but
Any other thoughts on, I don't know that we need to make that a motion. I think it's a good suggestion. Anybody else have any ideas about that? That seems to make good sense. You and I can talk about when we go through the agenda for next month.
Sounds good.
Okay, our next meeting date, I don't have it down here.
This meeting would be second Tuesday of February, so February 13th.
and we'll be back at Rockland Building.
Yeah.
Okay,
This was just simply because of the 1 week reschedule.
okay.
They got back to me
Sorry
the day
about that.
after. The day after I sent the agenda, because I needed to get it out, they got back to me because they were out sick saying, oh yeah, we could have used it, but at that point, I didn't want to confuse people.
Also, the boiler was bad, so that room might be really cold.
Honestly, it's 65 degrees over there right now because one of the boilers was out. So this was better anyway.
We
for
got
the
kicked
warrant.
out on a good
I'm
day.
so sorry. Okay,
Justin said he's gonna go home. Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Oh, it's 65 in your office?
Harsh living.
Oh, yeah. I walked in this morning, it was 65. I'm like, something's wrong in here. But
Yeah. You don't have a basement, do you?
No.
One of the offices downtown discovered they had visitors living down in the basement area that they discovered when somehow they accidentally turned off the,
Like
furnace?
like people?
yes. Squatters living in, I mean, there was like food, clothing,
What?
backpacks. I mean, not backpacks, sleeping bags. Was
What?
there like 11 bags of garbage you guys dragged out of there?
Yeah.
Yeah, 11 bags of
Broke
garbage.
in. They threw all their bags of clothes and it hit the furnace switch and turned off the heat.
That's how we found them.
So we went in the basement, they're all living there.
I
And
mean,
they
we
jimmy
put,
the lock every night. Yeah.
Okay,
interesting.
then I'll make a motion to adjourn. I mean, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
Okay.
so exciting. Squatter, but do they have squatters' rights or were they not there long enough?
Okay.
I don't know if there's